Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Angelika Burawska. I'm Chief Operating Officer at SFC Capital, the leading SCIS fund in the UK, one of the most active, if not the most active, early stage investor, partner to British Business Investments, which is investment arm of British Business Bank, and investor in now probably over 500 companies. So hopefully I will be helpful today.
Hi everyone. Hi, my name is Tanya Rahman. I'm an investment manager at Foresight. So Foresight Group, in a nutshell, we're a FTSE 250 listed business founded in the 1980s. We have about 12 billion assets under management, probably one of the most active fund managers in the UK, investing £500 million a year into any UK growth opportunities across all sectors. My focus area specifically is early stage venture. So I look at pre-seed to Series A, deep tech and enterprise SaaS companies, and yeah, anything that's IP rich with a clear path to commercialization. Thank you.
Tom, my name is Tommy, and I'm a senior advisor at the Growth Stage. So the Growth Stage is a capital raising platform, and as our very on-the-nose name gives away, we work with businesses that are already in their growth stage. So what that means is typically businesses that are, out of Series A and they're looking to raise, probably Series B or Series C into much later rounds, so right up to pre-IPO. So I guess in numerical terms, we're typically working with businesses that might be looking to raise in around $15 million and above, right up into, in some cases, we've helped companies raise hundreds of millions before IPO. And we're pretty broad across tech, so we're not sector specific, and we work purely with institutional investors. So we don't work with angels or early stage investors. And outside of that, then myself, I'm also a mentor at Founder Institute. So I actually do quite a lot of work with very early stage founders and helping to guide them through the early part of their journey with their startup ideas.
Hi everyone, I'm Dan Bowen. I'm the Chief Executive of Ideas Crucible. Thank you for having me on this esteemed panel with great company. Ideas Crucible raises capital for startups from late pre-seed to Series A+, predominantly enterprise SaaS, deep tech, a lot of IP rich. We work with a lot of universities supporting them in spin-outs, both in the UK and abroad as well, in the US as well. From my point of view today, I don't see any questions as silly. As an exited founder myself, I welcome all questions, whether it be about VC or family office or angel investment.
Thank you very much to you all for joining us today, and I really appreciate it. For some reason, the other panelist is taking a bit longer to join us. Nevertheless, what we might want to do is perhaps start with some do's and don'ts that are important to you when it comes to early stage fundraising. We'll try and, since there's a few of us luckily, we'll try and keep it to a minute each, please, for the panelists that are here, and then we'll see what happens. So maybe we can start with Tommy and then Dan, who've been here before, so they kind of got the gist, and then we can go on to Tanya and then Angelika, please. Tommy?
Yeah, so one thing I talk about regularly on here for early stage founders and when they're thinking about capital raising is it's really, really important to try and understand, is your business venture backable? And so you need to spend a lot of time looking at the market opportunity for your idea. So is there a market that's big enough for you to grow that business and be worth, and a lot of investors, venture investors, like to talk about unicorn potential, but not necessarily unicorn potential, but a business that can be worth into the hundreds of millions. And venture investors, they're not going to go into too much detail, but they work off Tower law, and that means a small number of the companies in any fund will be the ones that actually return most of the fund. And so every opportunity they look like has to have real scalable opportunities. So it's really important to try and understand, and it can be difficult and it takes time if you're a new founder to try and figure out if your business really got that potential. If it doesn't have that potential, it doesn't mean it can't be a great business and still make you, lots and lots of money. And there are other investors that will invest in those businesses. There are lots of angels and angel syndicates that will invest in businesses that might not look like they could be worth hundreds of millions, but if they could be worth high single digit or double digit millions, they're attractive propositions for investors. But, going after institutional capital, venture capital, it takes a lot of time, a lot of work. And if you go down that route before you've even started to do your homework and realize if your business is even of interest to them, you're just going to waste a lot of time trying to get an investment you won't ever get. So I would say just before you start even trying to look for investment, making sure you understand the opportunity for your business and is it an attractive proposition for venture investors, and also thinking about what angels are looking for, and you'll save yourself a lot of time and hassle further down the line by doing that.
From my point of view, I mean, it's true across all the stages of the funding cycle, but I'm sure many of the founders on this will have heard of this before, but it does come down to the personalities of the founders at the end of the day. You are investing in them, very much more important at the earlier stage, where there's still various aspects of the business which are still to be put in place or still in development. So come across, so it's important you're doing it. It's about people at the end of the day as much as the businesses. So likable, coachable, willing to take feedback. Equally so, we're after people who can push back where we maybe get it wrong or stuff. So don't, that's really super important. We want a really good business. You want to kind of really market it and sell it to us. Selling is one of the key skills to me of any founder, whether they're selling to an investor, selling it to the product, selling it to the market, selling to suppliers. But equally so, investors don't want you to overpromise. They want, don't be afraid to show a few of the shortcomings that need to be addressed that you're going to address with the funding. Be realistic, yes, you want to go, yes, you want to be ambitious, but don't be over ambitious at the end of the day. So don't overpromise. Given I do a lot of, I guess, deep tech, IP rich companies, AI, cyber, a lot of people doing clever stuff, really highlight what makes you unique. And what is your moat, what is going to make you defendable, what's going to stop someone else entering this space. And and stay focused. I see a lot of startups who promise you many features and many arms and legs to the businesses without really addressing the key core thing that they're solving. At the end of the day, if you look at all the big investments, the Airbnbs, the Amazons, they're all starting with one simple problems like putting books online or, a pill to solve a headache at the end of the day. Focus on what your core proposition is in the early stages.
Thank you very much, Dan. Yes, Tanya.
So yeah, thanks, Dan and Tommy. I echo a lot of what Dan and Tommy have already said, already. But I think one of the biggest things that I see, and I think from a founder's perspective, it will save you a lot of time and energy, and that's that research element I think Tommy mentioned. So, when you're initially approaching, when founders are approaching investors, it's really good to do your homework and diligence on them before you get involved in any type of conversation. And first things first is understanding whether that investor even invests in your sector or at the stage that you're investing in. For example, I know we've got Angelica on the call, and an SFC invest in more SEIS rich businesses, whereas if you approach an investor like Foresight, unfortunately we don't look at SEIS businesses at all. We would have to look for something a bit more later stage. So that kind of thing really does save you a lot of time and effort. And also I think, when you are having those initial conversations, particularly early on with investors, there are several questions that you can ask from the get-go to really understand that investor's approach and how specifically they may be able to add value. Because particularly early on, when you're building your business, you want people around your board table that are going to add value beyond that capital alone. So you can, ask things like, how have you helped your portfolio companies post investment? Give me some examples. Perhaps there's other founders in their portfolio that you can be introduced to, and that will really give you more of an understanding whether that investor is right for you or not. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents.
From my end, well, there are so many things that you can say about do's and don'ts. So I will try to narrow it down to Just underlining to be prepared to come to investors when you are ready, and not too early. And let's remember, not every business can get funding, not every business will get investors' interest, not because they are not good businesses, it's just investors are looking for returns. So we will be investing in companies that have actually chance to exit, to grow and then exit. So there's no point in coming and asking for money just for the sake of it, because everyone is raising, because around you there are entrepreneurs who have investors. Sometimes a lifestyle business can be still a nice business to run and be very fulfilling without investors on board. Investors will put pressure, investors will have expectations. So before you come and ask for money, be very sure that this is what will help your business and this is the right component for your business. And also have a long-term plan of that fundraising. The most innovative companies will need a lot of money. And that money will be coming from different pots. And as Tanya rightly said, we are investing at very early stages. The SCIS company, qualified companies will invest later, because we tend to follow up at the EIS stage, but at some point we stop, because it's the business should grow and should go to the next level of investors who are looking at the growth stage, as an example. So it's good to have that overview. It's good to have a plan, what will come next, who will fund my next phase of development. And related to that, the don'ts, one very important one is valuation. So fighting for high valuation for the sake of it and trying to negotiate the best terms from that point of view is not a good idea, in my opinion. The valuation should be growing as you go to the next investor, but it has to be based on traction, on success of that business, not on wishing for the best valuation. And it's not easy to back higher valuation with commercial traction. So it's not a good idea to start at very high numbers and potentially refuse money because of that. But yeah, I will stop here because it's a very big topic, but something I always like to say to entrepreneurs.
Well, thank you very much to all of you. That is some pure gold there. I think we've got our last, let me make him a presenter, our last panelist that has just managed to join us. So Shaz, if you would like to introduce yourself, please, and then maybe give us one do and one don't when it comes to early stage fundraising. And by the way, we're all keeping cameras off as it's audio only. But thank you very much for joining us, and the floor's yours, buddy. Can you hear us, Shaz?
I can do. I just have to unmute. Yeah, I'm Shaz from Solibon Capital. We specialise in pre-seed, first check finance, and do's and don'ts. I think the do's are you've got to be able to come with a really well thought out plan that you believe in. You have to accept that maybe, certainly at my stage of funding, that you may not be fully ready, but you've got to be able to articulate the plan and what you're trying to do. And the don'ts are coming with basically an idea, because it's very early stage, but you've tried to create such a plan and such a high level of work that really doesn't make sense because there's just too many assumptions in it. So where we specialize in is, look, you've got an idea, you've got a plan, let's put some meat on the bones, let's see where you are, and let's see how we can progress that idea into that first stage funding if we all think it's right.
Well, that's brilliant from all of you. Really appreciate that. Well, you've heard them, people. We've got a fantastic panel with us today. They've already started with some great insights in terms of do's and don'ts. Just a quick reminder to all of you that are tuning in via our live streams, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or Instagram. Please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there. So you would need to join us live here on Microsoft Teams. It's interactive and it's audio only. If you can't do that through the links that I've posted there, you can simply just go to startup2scaleup.club and look for today's session, which is Startup Fundraising Q&A 131. You click on that, click join. It's a quick registration. You'll then get an email with a link to your email, and that will take you straight here to us. For those of you that are on Microsoft Teams, if you've got any questions, by the way, there are no wrong or right questions for that matter. It's a learning curve for us all. Today, we're helping you with whatever you have on fundraising. So perhaps you want to know when's the right time to fundraise, who should you go to, how much should you raise, maybe you want to know how to get your pitch deck done, or talk about your valuation, or some exit strategies and all that jazz. All you have to do is just type your question in the chat room here on Microsoft Teams. I will then unmute you and you can get to asking the question for the panel. Just a reminder that if you've got questions that are on other matters, please save them for the other conversations we run. On Mondays, it's talent. On Tuesdays, it's product and tech. On Wednesdays, it's growth. On Thursdays, as you've seen today, it's fundraising. Second Friday of the month, it's legal. And third Friday of the month, it's finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and you can RSVP to any of them via our sites at startup2scaleup.club, or even a better thing to do is when you go to our site, simply click on the WhatsApp icon there, top or bottom of the page. You will then be able to join our WhatsApp group and get alerts to all future rooms. You see, we've had over 270,000 people go through these rooms, but none of that would have happened without people like Tanya, Angelica, Tommy, Shaz, and Dan. So please feel free to follow them on LinkedIn and sort of show them your love. But remember, they do this for free so that they don't end up doing loads of other stuff for free. So just bear that in mind and be grateful for that. By the way, to my panelists, if you would like to drop in your LinkedIn URL here in the chat, I think that might be useful. But nevertheless, we will now go on to Mohsen. Mohsen, can you try if your mic works, buddy?
Hiya. Yep.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your business, and then carry on with your question, please.
Perfect. Thanks, Anton. Thanks, everyone, for the introductions. That was interesting. So my name is Mohsen. I'm based in London, and I'm a founder of Hired and Trained. So it's a job platform that aims to empower people to switch careers and find their first job. So one of the pain points and problems I've found speaking to so many people is that there's a big struggle in terms of getting a job that they really want, even if it is entry to mid-level. And they also get ghosted a lot, and the typical response is you don't have enough experience. But I really think that there is a chance to rethink the way that recruiters think, because there are a lot of transferable skills that people can apply to jobs and they can be easily trained. And that's why I'm creating a new job board that has training embedded in every role. So companies will have to be on board with this. But a lot of the time companies do have training. It's just having that mindset to be open to a wider talent pool. So there will be like a skills-based assessment and pre-screening using AI videos and voice and various different tools to actually find unique strengths of candidates. So I've done a lot of market research. I've surveyed over 1,000 HR professionals, and majority are interested. I've also held exhibition stands at recruitment events, networked, and had a lot of qualitative interviews and all of that. So there is a lot of interest, but of course the challenge is always to find your first paying customers. I've had customers that are interested, but it will be launching soon, so it's just a case of you know, when I do launch, to have a good number of companies signed up. So going to my question, so what more traction would you advise before raising investment. As a lot of investors in various different webinars always say, to find good traction and to show good financials and various different metrics, which can be challenging for a new startup which is just starting out, which has shown a lot of interest but essentially hasn't yet launched. But at the same time, as a job board, I can't really launch without having the right amount of users, if that makes sense.
Well, thank you very much for that, Mohsen, and very well done on your achievement and what you've done so far. I'm going to give you my quick 2 pence and then pass you on to the investors here. And if you can all keep it to 1 minute maximum each, please, lovely people, that would be great. Personally, Mohsen, having come from that world myself, in terms of how much traction you at least, unless you know somebody who's going to write you a check and they know that you're good, go into a new investor that you haven't spoken with and doesn't know what you're capable of, unless you can show some traction with an MVP and quite a few users already registered and maybe some people paying already, or at least, I don't know, like 50 companies saying that once this is ready, we will give you the money and get a seat. I think for this kind of product, you'll find it quite tough because it's quite saturated out there. But nevertheless, we'll start now. I guess we can start in the same order that they joined, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll go with Angelica, then Dan, then Shaz. Actually, no, it's not the same order that they joined. But anyway, Angelica, Dan, Shaz, Tanya, and Tommy. Your 1 minute of glory starts now.
Anton, you're very right. This type of business is not an easy one to fund because of the saturation of the market. But speaking more generally, early stage investors cannot look at discounted cash flow to assess a company. We cannot look at the past because there's no past, right? So we are looking at the components of that company at the point of time when they ask us for money. So the team, the market, the plan. In terms of financials, do you have an idea how much money you will need and what you will achieve with that? What will be the next stage of development and what will be the exit? Even if that's very far away, it is important to know where you are going. So looking at all of that will help you to determine what the valuation of your company is. And it might be just a matter of balancing between what you have today, what you can achieve, and how much money you can take from us at what valuation to fund you. I'm not saying that it is always the case, because at the same time, entrepreneurs are competing with each other for the same money. So someone with a better team, with a better plan, with a better idea of the journey will beat you for that money. But essentially, sorry, I'm going over a minute, but essentially it's important to know that it is a combination of factors, and the more traction you get, the better. But no traction, at least an MVP, might be still enough to get that initial funding.
Thank you. Yeah, so the MVP is the initial designs being done already. So I've already got the prototype. It's just a case of launching it now.
But you need to remember that even if you find anyone who wants to invest, you might be offered like a very, very low valuation, and that might be still okay. Like an angel investor who comes with experience in the sector, they might still be interested to join and be very actively supporting you. But at the same time, they will ask you for a big chunk of the business, and that might be still perfectly fine.
Yeah, thanks. That's helpful.
Down here. So I guess the first thing you need to figure out is taking equity or a venture capital or angel investment the best way to accelerate the business? Maybe going down some alternative routes, like taking a director's loan or bringing another founder in, or friends and family might be a better route. Given the nature of the business, it's very hard to scale in recruitment tech at the end of the day. there's no loyalty, sadly, in the recruitment tech. It's a really not a great sector to get kind of angel and venture capital, because there's a lot of people in a very busy space. It's a busy market, as Anton said, at the end of the day. And you've got to always remember that if people are looking for jobs at the end of the day, they'll be going to lots of sites and signed up to lots of platforms. There's no loyalty. They will be going to multiple sites and we will be bombarded. I'm waiting, and I have been for 10 years, for a really good recruitment tech. I don't look for them, so I find there's a lot of rubbish ones out there that really provides targeted opportunities. The nearest thing we've ever seen to disrupting the market has been LinkedIn, and they've disrupted it in a massive way. But if you look at your kind of Monster and Indeed, they're all doing the same thing at the end of the day. The ones that are succeeding are the ones that have a massive budget and trying to, spending a lot on SEO, a lot of marketing. Then fundamentally, all of them, in my view, are doing a really poor service. Customer service is atrocious at the end of the day. So you need to figure out a way with your, I don't know what your MVP is like, but somewhere where there's some kind of loyalty, somewhere there's good customer service, where there's retention, where you can coach them for career changes, which is going to affect your bottom line, but maybe that makes it sticky is the way to kind of do it at the end of the day. I would make sure you have a really good financial model and a really good understanding of what that money is going to. I have to say, I find this a very hard sector you'll find this a very hard sector to get investment in, unless you've got something very special and unique.
Thank you very much for that, Dan. I think next was Tanya, and then, or is it, hang on, let me just double check. I'm sorry. So no, next was Shaz, then Tanya, then Tommy. Sorry. Go on,
yeah,
Shaz.
Hamilton. Yeah, it's an interesting one. We've actually invested in a recruitment tech about a year ago, but it's focused on the apprentice side. And some of the things that made us invest, we looked at the guy is a subject matter expert, worked in one of the large apprentice providers, and he saw a particular issue and a gap in recruiting young 16 to 24-year-olds, or certainly 20-year-olds, and he presented us a plan that he wanted to execute. One part of his plan was to gain a lot of traction on social media and gain lots of young followers, and the other part of the plan was around creating a psychometric testing which allowed young people who didn't know what they wanted to do take this test and then come out the other end and say, oh, by the way, did you know, based on your results, you could be X, Y, or Z, and then have apprentice providers available with those types of roles. So he brought along 3 or 4 apprentice providers who were willing to pay for this service once it's launched. He launched the social side of it, and I think right now it's the most viewed recruitment pages on TikTok in the country. So there's a lot that went into there. So him being a subject matter expert, bringing along people that could and would pay for it, and over the course of the year, he's built out the tech and he's about to launch on the commercial side of it. So I think it's the same for any business. I think really early stage, we'd like to understand, where have you landed? This idea, why have you landed on this idea? You may have worked in it, you may be a subject matter expert, but what's the reason you've landed in it? Then we want to judge, okay, well, why is this a commercially viable idea? What evidence have you got that it's commercially viable? What kind of commerciality is there? What kind of margins are there? Like, what proof have you got in that? And that may be people writing you LOIs, or that this sector. And then finally we'd look at, well, why you? You've landed in a good space. We think it's commercial. Why are you or your team going to be the people to unlock this opportunity? And then how much money do you need to be able to prove some of your assumptions correct over the next 9 to 12 months? So it's a big mistake a lot of people make, is they come with a plan that wants £250,000 because that's the SEIS limit. And you kind of go, well, that's just a cut and paste. Like, what money do you need and what will you achieve with it in what timescales? And then somebody at that early stage has to get behind all of that thinking and believing it, because there is not a lot of data or evidence and no history. So I think also you've got to target the right people who are willing to understand and know and take the risk and invest in in ideation or very early stage. I find a lot of founders are spending a lot of time being in people's pipelines who are never going to invest in them.
Here, thank you very much for that, Shaz. Tanya, your 1 minute of glory starts now.
Thank you, Anton. Mohsin, lovely to meet you. Thank you for your question, and congrats on your business. Especially if you're not in the recruitment space, I commend you in terms of getting started. That's always the hardest. I think a lot of the things I was going to touch on actually already been said by everybody else. I mean, recruitment is a really tough sector. So even more kudos to you for going after it. And I think, you know, especially when it comes to differentiating your business in what is very much a crowded market, I think it's really important to kind of show that your product is essentially like better, faster, or even more efficient than what is out there at the moment. I'm not sure actually if you mentioned in your pitch whether there is anything about your product that has some kind of defensible advantage. If it does, then I highly recommend you focus and hone in on that as the key USP, you know, whether that's, I don't know, some kind of AI built into the product, whether, you know, there's some kind of proprietary data that you're able to kind of secure when you're speaking with clients. Or even if you have like an industry focus, I think some of the best recruitment companies or techs that I've seen, they do go after sector by sector approach. So I was actually on the board of a job matching recruitment platform that just focused specifically on the hospitality sector. So a sector where recruitment is such a chronic problem, you know, minimum wage staff, turnover is incredibly high. And the traditional job platforms like your Reeds and LinkedIn's just don't work for that sector because the people in that industry are primarily offline. And what we liked about it was that core differentiator. It was going after an offline audience. There's a chronic market problem there. So the market size is massive. And largely recruitment, I mean, hospitality companies are essentially enterprise businesses as well. So they can actually scale into multi-site. So it had all of those as an advantage. So yeah, so that's what I would say in terms of that. But in the traction point that you mentioned, obviously commercially your revenue isn't your pre-revenue at the moment, but that's not necessarily a turn off for investors. As long as you can show that you're on the path to commercialization, like have some kind of customer validation, whether it's pilot customers or, you know, even early testimonials, or even if you've got LOIs, so letters of intent, that does show traction. It doesn't necessarily have to be all financially based. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanya. And last but not least, Tommy, please.
Yeah, so most things have been covered already. I think, you know, what I was going to say anyway, which was just covered by Shaz's example of what he's investing, and Tanya said it too, is so I just get really, you know, niche and sector focused in this. So like, I think your USP is probably if you're going to have this, you know, training side to your business, think of a sector that can work really well in. So hospitality could be one. I think like food, if you think about like all the food producers out there, or, you know, restaurants and all this health and safety things, I think if you can just be, you know, show that you're the best and you have really high quality training for those on your platform, that might set you apart and might help you, you know, focus in on a sector where they'll actually appreciate the training. I think, you know, going broad based as a HR platform is just too difficult. And, you know, think about the different sectors, like, you know, training videos for recruiting in accounting and finance. I don't think will work for you because, you know, people in accountants already have their qualifications and finance people have their qualifications. So you're not really going to add value in training, but there might be other sectors where you actually can do that. So I'd really start to focus on that, and, you know, definitely commend you on the research you've done so far and taking, you know, stands at exhibitions. There's not many people actually, you know, get off their ass and go and do that stuff in the early stages to do market research. So that is valuable to you. And what you need to do is just look at all the people you've spoken to and try and see if there's, you know, you can find anything in the data where there was certain, you know, HR people from industries that showed the most interest in the training element, and maybe that'll help you narrow down where your focus is. But, you know, I just become like really focused and become like the absolute best at producing the training content for candidates for one really niche sector where it's really valuable, and then you'll be able to capture it. Because the HR side of things, I'd be like, oh, this platform's actually really good, but if it's just kind of a bit broad based and not focused, people will tell you, yeah, we'll use it, but at the end of the day, when it comes to it, and they're like, oh yeah, but you know, we have to pay for it, and you know, LinkedIn kind of does a fine job, you know, you'll just end up in that. So I just get really focused on a specific sector and just try and absolutely nail that, and then you'll have hopefully a model that, you know, maybe that'll just be big enough in itself, or you'll have a model that you can kind of expand into other sectors eventually with it.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone, and hope you found that useful, Mohsen. We are now only 16 minutes to go. So I'm going to be really cheeky and turn the clock. 1 minute for questions and 1 minute for answers. Becca, I've unmuted you, so please, you've got 1 minute to ask your question, and then we can start with the ladies first. Tanya, Angelica, and then Dan, Tommy, and Shaz. Take it away, please, Becca. I'll start the clock now. Becca, are you able to talk? Tell you what, I'll make you a presenter because you might be on a different. Let me see. Okay. How's that, Becca? Can you hear us now? Are you able to talk?
Hi, yeah, sorry about that. I was talking away. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Your 1 minute starts now. Please read that question.
Yeah, sorry, I've lost it now. Anyway, yeah, so most of you saw our video at the beginning, Startup of the Month. We're developing an app with meditations and productivity soundscapes set to the calming rhythms of reggae. We want to know, sorry, 1 second, let me just find my question. We're working on a prototype with 4 products, Rise and Shine.
Becca, I've just copied and pasted the question in the chat. You can read it there again.
Okay, I found a screenshot. So we're working on a prototype currently with 4 products, a Rise and Shine meditation, pain relief meditation, wind down and sleep meditation, and a productivity soundscape. And we have a basic MVP, which is a 12-minute guided meditation. At what stage could we approach a seed or pre-seed investor, and what would be the best model for an approach?
Good stuff. Your 1 minute is up now. So let's start with Angelica, please. And then we'll go on to Tanya, then Dan, then Tommy, then Shaz.
Hi, Becca. I will be very straightforward for this type of business. And again, we are talking about service that you can find today very easily. If you really want investors to join, I'm afraid you have to show a really strong traction and very competitive edge. So unfortunately, without revenues and without plans to do something better, bigger than anyone else, there's no point in trying.
Okay.
Hi, Becca. Okay, congrats on winning Startup of the Month. Well done. That's very cool. Yes, in regards to your app then, so you've said that you want to, I think the question in the chat was, how do you approach, at what stage do you approach investors? I think, you know, in terms of where you are in the business, so you're currently at your MVP prototype stage, so you're clearly at the pre-seed phase. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to fundraise, I think the clarity around it needs to be your early market validation and actually getting some traction. So, you know, what exactly is this product with reggae sounds? Problem is it actually solving? How many users are interested in this, as opposed to your nearest competitor, which is likely to be, I don't know, like Calm or Headspace, which are, I think, if not unicorn-based companies. Like, is what you're having, is it an actual business, or is it just a nice to have and an add-on? And you can show that by having like beta signups or some kind of customer waitlist numbers, or whether you've got some kind of social engagement survey or any data that you can present, rather than, oh, this is our app and we've got a 12-minute MVP. So I think that would be core in terms of your strategy. Thank you, Anton. Sorry, I've run out of time.
Sorry, no, that's all right. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep it to 1 minute for everybody. I think it's Tommy now, isn't it? Tommy?
Yeah. So I would say, you know, at this stage, it's probably going to be, as the others have said, quite difficult to raise money. But if you have your MVP, I wouldn't, you know, focus too much on raising right now. I try and just grow the business organically. The reality is, as being highlighted already, this is a really competitive space, and you're coming up against the likes of Headspace and Calm that literally have millions to spend on marketing. So you're not going to win this game, even though you have something a little bit different and unique with the reggae side of it. You're not going to win this game by raising money and spending on social media ads. Like, you just won't be able to spend enough to get the, you know, the eyeballs on your ads. So what you really need is to actually grow this organically through content. So I'd actually focus on getting really good on, you know, your TikTok, your Instagram, whatever, you know, the best medium is for you, and trying to build up an audience on that way and try and grow to, you know, tens of thousands of followers, and try and start converting some of them into users of the app and hopefully paying users at some stage. But, you know, and if you're not an expert at social media, maybe you need to try and hire a consultant or see if somebody partner up with, but I would go down that route.
Okay, thank you.
Dan?
Yeah, I guess what you need to decide what you want to be in the future fundamentally. Do you want to be the next Headspace, Calm? You're going to have a massive team, international expansion, offices around the world, spending lots of fortune, or is this going to be for you a successful but a lifestyle investment kind of business where it's more suitable for a small friends and family round, where it might make you a little bit of cash at the end of the day, but you're not going to be working like 18-hour days kind of thing. And I think that's almost going to determine whether you should be going out to the kind of angel venture capital community who are looking for that next unicorn or quarter unicorn, or whether, you know, it's just going to be another yoga app kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Yes, Chaz.
Yeah, I think I echo what's been said earlier. It is a competitive space. I mean, if you're going for pre-seed, again, I think you just got to determine, well, what am I going to do with that money? What am I going to achieve? But I would actually say that you would be expected to have grown some customers or tested it through, try to get users, get good at social media, and maybe the opportunity here is gain enough traction for one of the big boys to take it over as a niche. So your exit seems to be, rather than competing with them, that is something that they would find valuable, and you're bringing customers that they don't necessarily have, and in addition to what may be their platform already. But pre-seed money in this space, I think, is very hard to obtain.
Okay.
I really like that point from Shaz. And if I may give you, I'm now going to time myself. So I will give you my sort of 2 pence on this. Number one, start talking to people, get the word out there. But most importantly, speak to, I don't know, hospitals or various other organizations who are either going to get it to clients or are going to write a letter to say we're willing to pay to use this for our clients. And then go to the likes of Innovate UK or NHS Innovation and stuff like that, because to raise for this will be tough. So you want to maybe look at B2B2C to get some traction, and then look into the grant section, or maybe even crowdfunding. I hope that helps, Becca.
Yeah, thank you. Very useful suggestions.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, one of the first things I've learned about the startup ecosystem from investors was the saying that if you reach out to an investor for money, you may get advice. And if you reach out to them for advice, you may get money. So, you know what? There's no harm in starting those relationships from literally yesterday. And best of luck with that. And I hope it goes well, Becca.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you, everybody. That was very useful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. Now, I think we've got one last question that we will have time. Where is Moise? Let's give Moise the mic. Moise, can you hear us, buddy? Boys? Same story again. So I need to make you a presenter, don't I? Because you've joined from whichever. Yep. Moise, can you hear us now?
Yep. Hi.
1 minute of glory for you, buddy. Start now.
Yeah, sure. So my company, MoneyLift, we're developing a goal-based budgeting platform designed to help businesses reduce retention and help employees reach their financial goals. So I've done a bit of pivot of I was focusing on B2C, but now it's like B2B to C. And I wanted to know, like, for how can I get out of an early stage, like if I say like 2 years from now, that I don't want to say that, okay, I'm still early stage 2 years from now. And what is the best time to yeah, negotiate, like build that investor relationship of like growth?
Thank you very much. Boys, I'll give you the short answer of it. Out of the early stage is when you haven't got any, or you haven't got much to prove on that particular product. You just now look at expanding. That's when getting out of the early stage is. But let's hear what the experts, the investors, got to say. So I guess we will start now with Shaz, then Dan, then Tommy, then Tanya, then Angelica, please. 1 minute each, please.
Okay, so just picking up from what you said, Anton, we look at it in a very simple 3-stage place. Where have you landed? That landing phase can take, you know, sometimes a year, sometimes 2, maybe longer, to really understand that you've now got market traction, you've got a product fit or a market fit, you know what your revenue's coming from, and then you're in that expand phase. The money required for that should be easier to get, because you're really saying to somebody, if I get this amount of money, this is how I spend it, these are the returns, this should be more or less right because this is the evidence I've got. And then you're into, hopefully into an explode phase, land, expand, explode, where you've really expanded. You might have tweaked it a little bit more, and then you depend on the type of business you are, you're scaling massively. So I think I wouldn't put a time scale on it, but I think your business will tell you that you've moved from one phase to another by being able to clearly articulate, if I raise money, what am I going to do with it? And you're expanding what you've now spent a year or two developing. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaz. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about what the label is, to be quite honest. You know, it took 8-9 years before Google stopped calling themselves a startup, even once they got $1 billion. So, I mean, the important stage, whatever, the important thing you have to note at every stage is the velocity of traction, is the velocity of growth. Have you improved in terms of customers, your investment, your ROI? And that at each stage, that's what investors are looking for. Is this got momentum at the end of the day? You know, whether you call yourself early, late scale, expansionist is less relevant, other than the fact the kind of investors you're going to approach are those that are going to be going for those kind of ticket sales at the end of the day.
Thank you very much, Dan. Tommy?
Yeah, not lots to add. I think just in the general point of building investor relationships, this is something you should, be doing from quite an early stage, even if, it's not quite right time to raise investment. You should be trying to connect with investors, going to networking events or doing it online and trying to send them updates. So don't be asking for money, but just say, hey, look, can I send you a quarterly update, and make sure that's structured pretty well and cleanly so it's an easy to see email. And just say, here's our KPIs for the upcoming quarter, and then your next one say, this is how we performed against those KPIs. These are our upcoming ones. And then when it comes to raise money, hopefully they'll have some familiarity with either, both your business and your ability as a founder to actually execute on your KPIs.
Thank you very much, Tommy. And Tanya, just you had some trouble with the internet. So Moise was saying, how long does it take to get out of the early stage phase?
Right. Okay. Sorry about that. Yes. I think that all depends on you, really. Like, how quickly do you want to move? If you're spending part-time on this, then obviously it's going to take a while. But one thing I would caveat with saying is that if you are in the early stages, try to capitalize on what potential investment there might be out there. We've got things like SEIS, EIS schemes. So just know what exactly they are and what the timeline is, because personally, from experience, I speak to lots of founders. They don't have a clue about these tax efficient schemes. So, they've been building a business for 8 years, and they've missed the EIS threshold, which is where most VC funds in the UK kind of invest out of that vehicle. So yeah, and that goes back to the first question someone asked about doing your diligence on investors, full stop. So knowing who to talk to, what profile type of investments they make, and what vehicle do they invest out of. So yeah.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Angelica, please.
So if I understand the question correctly, you want to know how soon you can go to next tier investors who invest at the growth stage. If that's the case, then there are two things. First, traction, and did you achieve your KPIs, and what is the next phase of your business development? And second, did you achieve what you promised to the first investor? So your first funding round was to achieve something. Was that achieved? Yes. Okay, what's the next phase, and what's the plan for that? And every business is different, so the KPIs, the traction, what it has to be depends on type of the business, type of the market.
Well, thank you very much to all 5 of you. Moise, I hope you found that helpful. Can you hear us? Good man. Well, best of luck with your business. Huge apologies to all the others that have sent questions. There's a few other people that keep sending me messages on LinkedIn and so on. Unfortunately, we're unable to monitor your questions there. So please, next time, join us live and interactively here on Microsoft Teams. It's 1 o'clock. Now it means it's time to wrap this up. So I would love to hear some parting words from our amazing panelists. We'll start with our ladies of the house. Let's go on to, okay, so Tanya needs to go, but that's all right. We'll go on to Angelica, then Tommy, then Shaz, then Dan, please.
So the last the last words for this, is that what we are?
Yes, please. If you have any parting words to wrap this up. If you don't worry.
No, to be honest, I prefer to answer questions, because this is such a broad topic, and every business is different. So I think that maybe what I would advise is that for entrepreneurs, build the business. Don't think about fundraising as something that has to happen soon. Money is part of that business building, and sometimes it can come from different sources, not necessarily external investors. I think I said that on the beginning, and I want to highlight it again. So business first, fundraising later. It has to follow as a natural part of the business plan.
Here, thank you very much for that, Angelica. Tommy?
No, nothing really much to add. Just really focusing on that part before you actually go out and fundraise. Is your business venture backable, and do you really need the money? What's it for? So actually spending time doing all that work before you waste your time going out and try and fundraise if you maybe aren't backable, or you don't actually really even need the money.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, well done for getting where you are as a founder. I guess the one thing I tell all my founders is it's really a set of lots of individual small steps that get to start up from being a startup to a scale up to a successful kind of large kind of corporate at the end of the day. So celebrate all those individual milestones, whether it be your first trial customer, your first pilot, your MVP, your big corporate client at the end of the day. I always tell people to buy a bottle of wine or whatever their favorite chocolate, whatever it's, keep their bottles and put it on the shelf, remark every individual milestone, because you will have knockbacks. You'll feel, you'll feel like you're not doing so well, or your investment, you're not getting your Series A or B, and just look at those kind of bottles of champagne or whatever your Coke or whatever your thing is, and just remind you how far you've come at the end of the day, and just keep at it. It is a marathon, not, at the end of the day, not a sprint.
Thank you very much, Dan. And last but not least, Shaz, please.
Yeah, just echoing that. Being a founder can often be very lonely. You need a lot of tenacity and grit. I think you'll have a lot of knockbacks, but you need confidence. And I think you just got to recognize that you're looking for evidence that's proving to yourself, not just other people, that you're on the right track. And I think just making sure that you're mindful of, here's the assumptions I've made, are they close, are they not, what's changing, how do I do it? And yes, and don't fall on the first hurdle, because it is tough, it is long, but it's definitely rewarding and really worth it if you get it right.
Well, thank you very much for that, Shaz. Huge thanks to all of you today, and apologies for being a bit cheeky and rushing you to a minute each, but I thought we should try and get through most of the questions, which is why I did that. Nevertheless, huge thanks to everyone that tuned in today, especially those that were here on Microsoft Teams, but also yourselves that tuned in via YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. Please do remember next time to join us live here on Microsoft Teams. We're currently doing 6 regular sessions. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, second Friday of the month it's legal, third Friday of the month it's finances, and you can RSVP to any of them via our site startup-to-scale-up.club. Actually, when you go there, you might want to join, click on the WhatsApp icon there and join our WhatsApp group to get alerts for all future rooms. Another thing to remember is that we've launched our startup of the month for April, which means your startup, if it wins, will get featured in all the sessions. I think there'll be 14 in April, all the events that we run there, and hopefully give you some exposure to investors and other founders and potential co-founders or clients and so on. To enter, you need to go to our site, startup-to-scale-up.club, and look for Startup of the Month on the menu. A huge gratitude and grateful thanks to our panelists today. Please feel free to follow them on LinkedIn. And as far as my parting words, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Otherwise, huge thanks. Have a great weekend. God bless you all, and hopefully talk to you on Monday for Startup Talent Q&A. Bye-bye for now.